My name's Lloyd. Been a member probably for close to a year. I'm just very concerned. I've been following the reporting, the journalism since last February, because that's when it sort of started, and I've been following the reporting from last February to this February, and it's very annoying. It's very disconcerting the way the journalists report the campaign. They don't do a good job, in my opinion. Most of what you see in here, if I had to pick a number, I would say 85% of what you see in here, the broadcast, CNN, MSNBC, even Fox News, which I like, 85% is worthless. A lot of it is just anger and vitriol and bias and rivalry and jealousy and insulting people and sarcasm, and people set themselves up. The anchors are anchors, that's their job, but people set themselves up as experts and pundits, and they swear that their opinion is the right opinion, that they're perfectly right, they can't be proven wrong. They say that on Monday night, and Tuesday you see that they're totally wrong. I see that all the time, and even from journalists I respect. So for all of 2015, I did not hear the words delegate or convention once. I mean, it might have been mentioned, other channels that I wasn't watching, other journalists, but the media I was watching, I did not hear the word delegate or convention once. I started hearing the word delegate in January, and I started hearing the word convention the Thursday before Thanksgiving, which I think was Thursday the 11th. Anyway, Megyn Kelly called the Republican National Convention Sasquatch. Journalists don't like the convention. They don't like the convention. They like what they do. They like their shows, they like their polls, they like their interviews, they like having big shots on, they like asking difficult questions, they like their ratings, they like their debates, they like the gotcha questions, they like pitting one candidate against the other. But the things that they really can't influence, they don't like to cover. And namely, the two things are the creation of delegates, which basically is a function of primaries, and also the convention. Now, they talk about hope I say this right, a brokered or a contested convention. Do you have a question?
What did Megyn Kelly mean by Sasquatch?
A big, stupid, clumsy, oafish, mythological creature who lumbers and doesn't really accomplish anything at all. That's how I took it. That's how I took it. Anyway, delegates are created, okay? They're actually elected. Delegates go to the convention. I have a list here. I'll make it available to anybody. This is the schedule of primaries and caucuses. I did the math very carefully. Now there are the 50 states, plus there's Guam, Puerto Rico, District of Columbia, American Samoa, Northern Marianas, and the Virgin Islands. So 4 and 2, 6. So there's 50 plus 6 is 56, for a total of 2,470 delegates. Now, I had one of the sources I used was the CNN article about the 2012 election, the campaign with Mitt Romney. Now, things, of course, have changed. It's not Mitt Romney, it's not 2012, and the number they give in this, the majority that they were seeking in this, we're going to the convention with more than 1144 delegates, said Rich Beeson, Romney's political director. We're going to do what we've always done. We've had a plan since day one. Anyway, the numbers are a bit different. I'm told it's X divided by 2 plus 1. So 2,470 delegates, half of that is 1235, plus 1 is 1236. So a numerical majority is 1236. So that's what's needed. Delegates are elected
is that the Republican and Democratic convention?
I thought it was 1144, did that change?
Yeah, I'm telling you, change.
It changed?
I'll say it again, 2,470 divided by 2 is 1,235, plus 1 is 1,236, so I guess it changed. Anyway, I just want to read this one notable thing from the CNN article. This is directly from the CNN article. Every primary contest comes down to one thing: amassing as many delegates as possible. These delegates are elected to go to the National Convention, where they will officially nominate the candidate to represent the Republican Party in the general election against President Barack Obama. Of course, that's different now. It's, you know, he's not running. It'll be some Democrat, but not him. It takes 1144 delegates to win the GOP nomination. Anyway, to me, that's the most important paragraph from that article. There are delegates and there are what are called super delegates. Let's say Sunday, Friday, I was watching Fox News and somebody asked Brett Baer to define super delegate. He defines super delegate as a party boss or leader who has a party boss or leader who has great influence and power over the the party members, especially party members becoming delegates. Delegates have to be elected, and the information I have is that delegates are elected at the primaries. Now, in this list, New York will have a total. New York will have a total of 95. New York will have a total of 95 delegates.
How many of those are super delegates?
I don't know. I'm not sure. But anyway, super delegates are leaders. So we might know the name of somebody who's a super delegate because they're probably an elected official.
Patrick Leahy's one. Patrick Leahy.
Okay, so would Dan Donovan say he's a super delegate?
I'm not sure. Patrick Leahy's a super delegate pledged to Hillary Clinton.
No. Well, okay, I'm talking about the Republican Party.
Yeah. We have to look at, first I'm not Republican, but they have super delegates on that.
Yes, yes. Okay, anyway, super delegates, I don't want to say that they make, but they sort of help to create the delegates. Now, delegates are elected at primaries. Now, when we vote in an election, whether it's for a city council or state senator, I live in Bay Ridge, so it's Marty Golden, or for congressman like Dan Donovan, or mayor or governor, we're voting in an election where the person we're electing governs us. Okay, so elections primarily are to elect people into government who govern us. It's very different with delegates. Delegates get elected, but delegates don't govern us. Delegates get elected so that they can go to the convention. And New York will have 95 delegates going to the convention. Now, some journalists, when they describe this...
This is 95 from the Republican Party.
Yes.
For the Republican convention.
Yes.
For the state of New York.
Yes.
Okay, so... where was I? Some of the journalists talk about all of the delegates, already have it. They already have it figured out that they know who it's going to be. So, in a sense, the implication is that the convention is a sham, and it's circular. They know who it's going to be, but there's going to be a convention, but they know who it's going to be. But not everybody sees it that way. So when they talk about a brokered convention or they talk about a contested convention, there's an excellent chance that all the experts are wrong. They think they know who it's going to be, but it doesn't have to be. Now, there are distinctions. There are what are called if I'm saying it right, pledged delegates and unpledged delegates.
Committed, uncommitted.
And committed and uncommitted. But that can change. Things can change as votes take place. So the calculus is a little tricky. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around it. But just because someone's, committed, things can change. So there are committed, there are uncommitted, and once the delegate elections are held and these people are the delegates going to the convention, things can happen at the convention. But it's the convention and the convention only that confers the nomination. So when these journalists say that they know it and they know who's going to be the nominee and they know who's going to be the president, they don't. That's why I say 85% of what they say is wrong. They just get it wrong. They want ratings, they want to be liked, they want to look smart. So they say these things, but they're not necessarily true. The most important thing
When was the last
is-
time in history where a delegate from either party, even if it wasn't Republicans or Dems, it said, okay, we're going to elect this.
The 1960.
No, that was a close election, but
No, between Johnson and Kennedy, wasn't that?
between Kennedy and
Okay,
Nixon.
okay.
Hillary lost, she had enough delegates.
Guys,
My purpose for giving this talk,
Guys,
And
can we
it's-
have the questions towards the end?
yeah, questions was, yeah. My purpose for giving this talk, and if my friend, my collaborator had shown, he's very expert in these matters. He would be able to field the questions. I won't be able to field all the questions. Conventions can be a hurly-burly. Right now, this is a hurly-burly, but I mean, chaos. But I mean, a convention can be sort of wild, unexpected things can happen. The fact that we can start out with 14 or 16, candidates and then come down to 4, 50 years ago it didn't happen that way. It just didn't happen that way. You'd find out at a convention that some little-known senator from Colorado or some little-known senator, a congressman from Idaho wanted to be the president. You find that out because of the convention. Now, most of the traditional work of the convention is done in media, especially the debates and the polls. It shouldn't be this way. They shouldn't be knocking off people. The journalists shouldn't be knocking off people by, say, 14 out of 4. They really shouldn't, but they do that. That's what they do, and they know they can get away with it, and it gets them good ratings. But the most important thing, and the thing that we need to focus on as a political club, is the convention. Now, it'll vary how much we actually learn it, know it, understand it. That'll vary from person to person, but we have to see that the most important thing are the delegates, the election of delegates, which come through the primaries, and the convention itself. The convention, and only the convention, confers the nomination. So the things that we see on the media, they have to fill space, they have to say things, but most of what they say, to me, is worthless. The date, let me give you the date for the...
I think it's Lexington and Concord Day. April 19th.
Right, April 19th. April 19th. If anybody wants to look at this later, these are the 50 states plus the 6 territories. They're all the dates. I've gone over the math 4 times, adding them up in a line item. It's a total of 2,470 delegates, and half that plus 1 is 1,236, and that's the majority that's needed. I'll stop there and I'll try to answer questions, but my answers might be a little incomplete.
Okay,
Yes.
in the New Hampshire, I got a question. In the New Hampshire primary, would Bernie Sanders beat Hillary? I'm sorry, not New Hampshire. I apologize. Iowa caucuses. Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton got approximately the same number of votes each. I think Clinton edged out Sanders by a tiny margin. So with the popular, they each got, I believe, 9 delegates each. But what happened was Hillary already had 6 super delegates committed. So that would, because of that, Hillary's getting. So my question is it the same thing in the Republican Party? Like, could the two, like, for example, could Cruz and Trump each get about the same number of votes in a certain state, and yet one of them could get more because of the super delegates?
Yeah, my answer, my inkblot reaction to that would be yes. Now, again, these caucuses and primaries, the most important function they perform is they go about to create the delegates. They go about, because that's when the elections for delegates take place, and the party bosses, whether it's Kings County or Queens County, the party bosses contribute to that process. But the actual election of delegates is at the primary. So even though the journalists talk about Sanders or Clinton, the thing they really should be talking about is, and they're starting to, you know, it's February 21st, and they're starting to talk about delegates, how delegates are created, how delegates are impacted by the primaries we're seeing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
When did they change the rules? Because, as years ago, it was a smoke-filled back room, and now we have primaries and caucuses. Generally, what year did that process start changing, where the people have more of a say in the sense of voting for the delegate?
Well, I think we've always had primaries and caucuses because it's the process by which delegates are elected. But that it's turned into a circus and it undercuts the real convention and the real national election. I don't know. I'm going to say 20 years. I'm going to say 20.
Oh, well, I know a little bit about it.
Go ahead, please.
1968 Democratic Convention was a disaster, and they began pushing after, because people wanted, what was his name, McCarthy, right? Eugene McCarthy, and they foisted Humphrey on him, and they didn't like it. And so they decided we're going to come up with a more democratic system of choosing the delegates. They changed the primaries. That's when Iowa and New Hampshire said, hey, let's go first. That's when they started thinking this first place thing. It's really wild how they did that. Pretty smart of them if you ask me.
Yeah.
So prior to that, there were primary elections and caucuses, but they had almost no power. The people, delegates. See, my thing is, I think the superdelegates are not elected. Superdelegates, even to this day, they're a smaller fraction, but they're still a large number, and they're appointed by the party powers. And that's how, you know, they had a tie in Iowa, but the Clinton person, whose first name I won't say, wound up winning by a lot. Or in New Hampshire, Sanders killed her. He beat her 60 to 40%. They came away with the same number of delegates.
15 and 15, I think.
You know,
That's
now we have to guard against that kind of manipulation going on in the GOP. I don't know what we're going to do about it, but we should protest certainly.
But they're
We should
planning,
look-
you know, they're planning to do.
Gertrude? I'm sorry, Gertrude.
Mike,
I just want to say,
Go
that
ahead.
they have these early primaries and they knock over all these candidates, and when we get to vote, we're not getting the.
We never had a
And it
chance.
shouldn't be
So
that way.
why can't we have a
shouldn't be that way.
national primary?
Also,
That's an idea.
the way the journalists cover it, like, let's say of the four, it's either 4 or 5 Republican candidates now. Let's say one wins Iowa, and one wins New Hampshire, and one wins South Carolina, and one wins Nevada. The journalists are still talking about the candidates, but it's indeterminate. Like, they're not really saying anything. Nobody is the leader, the winner. You know, 5 months ago, 4 months ago, 3 months ago, 2 months ago, 1 month ago, I kept hearing about how Jeb Bush is a slam dunk winner. He's going to get the nomination. He's the next president of the United States. And I was listening to the radio, I think it was maybe last night, and he dropped out. He suspended his...
Oh, he's done.
He's done. He suspended his candidacy. But if you had listened to the geniuses, the experts, the journalists, 1 month, 2 months, 5 months ago, it's a slam dunk. He's going to be Trump. He's the nominee.
what a
He's the
shame.
president. You know,
Howard,
so
Howard, right? Your question was a good one, though. When was the last time that the presumed nominee from the convention didn't win the nomination? I don't think it's happened.
The only thing I could cite, something I learned very well recently, I was reminded of. The 2000 election, whether most of us here were alive at that time, maybe one exception. I understand 2 or 3 electors decided not to vote for Gore. They voted for...
Oh, ninth electoral college.
No, we're talking, but that's very similar, mind you.
That is similar. but
Now,
not
people
same
that
thing.
have a mentality like, gee,
But he
electoral
was
college.
the nominee.
Could they be...
The nominee was already conferred upon him.
You're
Right.
talking about the electoral college.
the
Yeah,
electoral
which
college.
is
Yeah.
after nomination.
That's a very similar process when you think about it.
Yeah, but
Well, it is.
But what Bill is stating is technically true, that nobody's won anything yet.
And incidentally,
And the
the
only
Constitution does not guarantee an individual the right to vote for president. People, that's a misnomer in this country. You are not guaranteed nowhere in the Constitution does it state you have the right to vote for president.
The 14th Amendment doesn't say that?
No. The
15th,
states,
15th
the
Amendment.
states are the ones, according to the foundation of our country, that vote for the
Yeah,
president. The state legislature.
but in 1860-something, they passed the 15th Amendment, which gave everybody the right to vote.
But I still don't think there's anything in our original documents that state that an individual has the right to vote for
We
president.
still don't have a direct election.
That's correct.
Okay, one more thing I want to say. Election, when delegates are elected at these primaries, An election is a contest. It's more than one person is interested in the position, okay? So you have an election, maybe 2 or 3 people want to become a Republican delegate to the National Convention. So there's an election, meaning a competition, meaning more than one person. But we